Welcome again for those that were here before, but for the rest of you, welcome. I got to read a little statement here. I hereby announce that the date is February 12th, 2026, and the time is 6:28 p.m. Well, there was no vote as such in the executive session. Coming out of executive session, we are directing staff to bring back to us the letter of intent, the LOI, in relation to the baseball fields at Midtown, and it'll be put on. I'll ask you to put it on the agenda for the February 26th meeting. Thank you very much. And that's the only message I'm bringing out of executive session tonight. There being no further business on that, we will return to our regular agenda. And if I can find the right place here. Presentation, proclamation, awards, and recognitions. Oh, no, that's not right. I always skip over this. Pledge of allegiance, invocation, and consider absence request. So we'll begin with if you all rise, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Haley will give the invocation and we'll move on from there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Pastor Ben Haley will present us with the invocation.
Please pray with me. Father, we give you thanks for your care and love for us and for our city. I thank you again for all of our city officials and citizens gathered here tonight. I pray that as the mayor and our city council deliberate and plan for College Station, that you would give them great wisdom as they look to contribute to the flourishing of our city and its citizens. Thank you again for all of our government employees, law enforcement, fire, emergency responders, teachers, parks, rec, and all support services. We pray for your blessing for the welfare of our city and ask that you bless the work of the council, that they might be a blessing to our city. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Haley. Also a chaplain with our first responders. We appreciate his service and leading us in the invocation. And as you noticed, we have a group of Boy Scouts here tonight. They're working on their communications badge, so that's for those of you that might have wondered what I was doing. That was part of my role to welcome them and answer some questions. And thank you for being here. Okay. There is a speaker protocol, which is in the agenda and posted. I don't think I need to say much more about that. We do have a few people that have signed up to speak tonight. Just make sure you stay within your time allowance, and there is a timer up here at the podium for you to follow the time allowed. We have a proclamation tonight, a proclamation presentation recognizing February 2026 as Black History Month. Barbara Moore is here, and I think there's one or two people from the African American Museum. If you'll come up front, I'll walk down there and join you, and we'll read the proclamation and celebrate Black History Month. I guess Ed Udell's not here tonight, but that's okay. So let me step forward. I'll read the proclamation and we'll do a photograph. Welcome to you all. If I can open it up. Oh, backwards. It's upside down. That's the problem. Proclamation. Whereas, for 100 years, our nation has officially recognized the achievements and the contributions of Black Americans through national commemorations, a legacy started by Dr. Carter G. Woodson in 1926. So this is the 100th anniversary. And whereas the 2026 theme, A Century of Black History Commemoration, urges us to explore the transformative impact of public observances in elevating the accomplishments of Black people in the modern world. And whereas, as we also commemorate the 250th anniversary of the United States independence this year, we recognize that an accurate and all-encompassing history of our nation must also center the stories and struggles of Black Americans. And whereas Black history is American history, and its value lies in the resonance and truth, serving as a beacon for democracy and social progress. And whereas our community remains committed to honoring the trailblazers, leaders, and everyday citizens who have shaped the cultural, economic, and political fabric of our society. Now, therefore, I, John P. Nichols, Mayor of the City of College Station, Texas, proclaim and officially recognize February of 2026 as Black History Month, and urge all citizens to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and reflections, and to continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, equitable, and prosperous for all. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of College Station to be affixed this 12th day of February 2026. John P. Nichols, Mayor, and this is what a proclamation looks like. So that official proclamation of the city. And while I'm presenting this to you, I will also note that if you haven't already seen the I Heart College Station magazine for the month of February, and every month it's a digital magazine, features Black history and has a really set of interesting stories about 4 or 5 people in the community that have contributed a lot, are citizens of College Station, and have meant a lot to the community in many different ways. So we're doing a lot of different things. There was also a Martin Luther King Day celebration. There was a march from inside the city of Bryan that I attended a few weeks ago. So a lot of different activities going on. So if you would, you're going to accept, who's going to accept this? Come right over here.
Okay.
So we're going to get a photo taken, and I've taken my badge off so I don't get. Oh, we got to send her on this.
This one?
She wants us under this
Under the seal?
seal. So that's the. There we go. I'm going to put this down. Thank you for being here, and welcome. Well, happy that I was able to participate in this. Thank you. Barbara, thank you. All right, folks. We're ready to move on with the agenda. We have here visitors, and I believe, I don't know where my list is, but there are 2 people signed up to speak for here visitors, so I'm going to have them come forward in the order that they're presented to us. Mr. Trent Thomas. Signed up to speak during here visitors. Mr. Thomas. Donald Ball. Donald Ball. Neither of them are here, but both of them were signed up to speak under here visitors. Maybe we.
They're
not going to be here. Mayor.
Pardon?
I believe on advice of council, they're not going to be here today. They're working with the city attorney.
Oh, they had a different date in mind? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, we'll move on then. Nobody here for sure visitors. So we will move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda exists of, I believe, 7.1 to 7.5. Just 5 items. Does any council member wish to have information provided on any of those items? Seeing no interest, and no need for question.
I was going to move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Wright makes approval. Did I hear a second? Mr. Yancey is seconded to approve all the items on the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So we have approved the consent agenda, which brings us to the workshop agenda. And I will look forward to this presentation, workshop agenda item 8.1. Presentation, discussion, possible action on an update from the College Station Fire Department. This is a presentation that's made annually. We have different departments make presentations periodically, and tonight it's the fire department. And Chief Mann, welcome.
Thank you. Mayor, city council members, thank you for this opportunity. It's a privilege to be here. I always look forward to this on an annual basis, the opportunity to share some exciting updates with the fire department and really to highlight some of the outstanding work that's being done by the men and women of the department. I brought some backup with me tonight. I want to introduce some of the folks that help make the support for the men and women in the department happen. That is Assistant Chief Robert Mumford, Assistant Chief Chris Kelly over Administration and Support, Assistant Chief Josh Varner over Emergency Medical Services, Fire Marshal Cameron Giordano, and new to our leadership team is the Code Enforcement Officer, Supervisor Tommy Schilling. So we're glad to have them here this evening to actually answer any tough questions that you might have. But as we come into FY26, we are now a department of a head count of 206 individuals. We are currently in the process of filling those last few positions that we have. With the head count of 206 by our industry standards, that makes us a very solid mid-sized department in terms of fire departments across the country. Tonight's presentation is going to include some data on our, basically I'm going to include, this will all be 2025 data, a summary of our past year, our response data, response trends and call volume and response times. We'll look at fire prevention, code enforcement, and some of our community outreach activities. Share the results with you from the first year of our new shift schedule change, some updates on Station 7 and the progress there, and give you an update on our fleet. So we've got a lot to cover tonight. I'm glad it's a light agenda.
That doesn't mean you can take the whole night.
Well, I know you don't like to get out before midnight, right? It's kind of the standard.
Oh, no. Tonight is one of those nights that are definitely going to hold you
Yes, sir, I'll
accountable.
do my best. Looking at call volume trends, this is kind of the past 7 years of our call volume trends. Last year, we came in at 12,008 emergency responses for the department. One of the things that you'll see in this graph, and it represents two things, the fire call types being in red and the EMS call types in blue. And one of the things that you'll notice that's pretty standard year after year is between 65 and 70% of our requests for service are medical related type calls. Last year we came in right at 70% for EMS calls. And another thing that I think you can notice in this trend is, early on in this graph, you'll see some pretty steady increases, but then when we look at the last 5 years, I would call it more of a trend of stabilization. Over the last 5-year period, we've seen an increase in our call volume of about 6%. A lot of that is related to reestablishing our relationship with our neighboring jurisdiction, and that 6% actually correlates to the same population growth, 6% over that same five-year time period. So I believe we're at a stabilization point now to where our call volume will increase with as our population increases proportionally. Call volume alone doesn't necessarily tell the whole picture. Well, one of the things that we anecdotally have noticed and started tracking this past year It is not uncommon for me to check the status of our department at 7 o'clock in the morning and see all our units are in service, everybody's available. And within the next hour or two, I noticed that we've got 4 or 5 calls going on simultaneously. And so we started looking at that and seeing how often we have overlapping calls or concurrent calls. And we actually were surprised to see that we have 81% of the time we have multiple calls taking place and overlapping. So, for example, if we had 4 calls, EMS calls, we may have an ambulance that's en route to a call. We may have another ambulance that's on scene treating a patient in another call. We may have another ambulance that's actually en route to the hospital with a patient. And we may have another ambulance that's at the hospital turning that patient over to the hospital staff and doing their documentation. So all those units at that time are unavailable for another emergency. So we wanted to look and see, this really is about our capacity. And using athletic terms, it's our bench. It's how deep our bench is. And so I point this out because 81% of the time we have multiple calls. Now the majority of that may be 1 or 2, but we have we had one instance of up to 20 calls simultaneously occurring last year. So we do see some quite a bit of overlap. That's important to note because our depth of bench is going to get bigger this year. When Station 7 comes on board, I think that's really a good timing for that, because while we may continue to have 80% overlapping calls, we'll have a greater resource capacity for that extraordinary event that may happen during that time. So very, very good timing on that. This I've shared with council over the last couple years, and it's really been pretty close to the same, varied just slightly over the past couple years. Prior to that, we saw quite a few different numbers. But again, we've realigned our relationship with our neighboring jurisdiction, so we are predominantly providing service to within the city limits of College Station, 91% being in the city limits, 1% in the city of Bryan, that's through mutual aid responses, and then about 8% in the county. And I would remind you that we do have a contractual agreement with Brazos County to provide EMS service for the southern portion of Brazos County. So those 8%, a majority of those are EMS calls, but we also provide quite a bit of mutual aid fire service as well to support the volunteer departments. I know that state legislation continues to challenge local authority over the ETJ regulations, and that is of particular interest to the fire service. One of the reasons is that over the last 5 years, we've seen a 57% increase in our responses into our ETJ. And so we definitely have an interest in that from a response standpoint, especially in regards to the developmental standards in the ETJ, making sure that we have good access, construction, water supply, street widths, turning radiuses, those type of developmental standards are really important as we continue to see increasing responses into the ETJ. A couple areas that council has asked in the past, and we've really seen, again, the stabilization in the last 2 years, and this is 2 areas of interest are Northgate and the A&M campus. Comparing 24 and 25, really they are very identical. Last year we had 780 responses to Northgate. That represents about 6.5% of our total call volume. And when I say Northgate for us, we're not including the entire Northgate small area planning. We're just talking about mainly the Bar District. That's what we are considering for that. And on campus, last year we had 619 calls to A&M campus. Again, that's about a little over 5% of our total call volume. And we're happy now this year that we have a contractual agreement in place and a local agreement with the university to pay for the services that we provide for fire service onto campus. Our most common call types are fairly consistent year after year. They may change in order of priority, but they are pretty consistent. One thing that I'll point out, a couple of these. One is sick call will probably always be the #1 call type. The reason for that is when a caller calls in with a medical emergency and they're very non-specific, they don't have enough medical knowledge to really give us a good description of what's going on, it kind of gets lumped into a general medical dispatch category, which we dispatch as a sick call. So that will always be, our #1 call type. Yes.
Chief, in the sick call category, do you have mental health incidences in there?
Those, if it's non-specific, it can get lumped into that. We do have a specific mental health call type. It's not one of our top 10, but we do have one specific. But again, if it's kind of general, non-specific, it could get lumped into there. So a lot of things kind of get put in there when the caller doesn't have good information. And the reality is when we get on scene, a lot of times that sick call, it turns out to be a chest pain call or a stroke call or a difficulty breathing, one of the other call types. But on dispatch, we didn't have enough information to code it that way. Motor vehicle accidents, again, is always one of our top 5 in our city. We're a city of young drivers, and we have a lot of accidents here. We'll be tracking that to see, what the impact of the Big Six project will have and whether we see an increase in that or not. But it is definitely one of the things that we see a lot of. One particular call type that I want to draw your attention to, and it's not one of our top 10, but it is one that's drawn some attention for us, and that is auto pedestrians. We have been noticing a significant increase in the number of auto pedestrian calls that we've been dispatched to, and most of these involve micromobility issues. We do not have a specific micromobility call type, so they are most commonly dispatched as auto pedestrian calls. And so this data doesn't include those on campus because we don't have their data, but we do know that they are also seeing an increase in micromobility accidents because they're pushing out a lot of safety messaging on campus as well. You may also notice this is closely tied with a recent news story about the number of injuries that the emergency rooms are seeing that has been increasing significantly due to micromobility incidents. So we looked at that, and we're seeing some of the same trends. I will tell you, I don't know that this data tells the entire story. Again, we don't have a specific call type for micromobility, so most of them are auto pedestrian. However, if somebody calls in and says there's been an auto accident, it will get coded as a motor vehicle accident, and we get there and find out it's involves a scooter. It may have been dispatched. So some of these may be actually merged into our motor vehicle accident call types as well. So it could be bigger. But what we do know is over the last 5 years, we've seen a 432% increase in the number of auto pedestrian incidents that we've had in our community. We put those on a map to try to see if we could identify, is there some hot spots where this is happening? And when we did that, I think it's pretty obvious around campus is the most common area, the four corners of campus being the most common areas, and then again along Texas Avenue. So those tend to be the hot spots of where these are happening. It's one thing to talk about it, but they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to show you, everybody's probably got a story about micromobility and scooters and what they've seen. We actually captured one. We had a very close call with one of our emergency vehicles with a scooter incident. So I want to show you a quick video. This was captured on our dash cam of our battalion chief vehicle. And just I'll put it in context for you. This occurred on December 1st. About 6:42 in the evening. A couple things I'll point. This was at the intersection of Harvey Mitchell and Holloman, so the newly redone intersection. Our battalion chief was traveling eastbound on Harvey Mitchell and was taking the curve to merge onto Holloman northbound. So that's kind of where this takes place. I will point out that the speed limits, the legal posted speed limits are 50 miles an hour on Harvey Mitchell, and as you merge onto Holloman, the speed limit is 35. Fortunately, we were going well below that, but I'll just tell you, just for context, that's what the speed limits are. Also want to point out before I show you, because the video is real quick and it happens really fast, is that you'll notice, just kind of looking at the preview here, the ground is wet. There was a little bit of rain going on that night, and you see the green light ahead because we had the green light. What you'll be noticing that happens very quickly is off the left side, there's going to be a small light about the size of a silver dollar that comes right in front of the vehicle. So let me play this for you after and let you see what it's like from the driver's seat. Now, first off, let me put your mind at ease, we did not hit this individual, okay? It appears we did, and the first time I saw this, I thought we hit him. What actually happened is this was so frightening for the individual on the scooter that he locked up the brakes and just froze and literally fell over because he forgot to put his foot down because he was so scared. So he literally fell over. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but at the time of that, we were going 21 miles an hour. At 22 miles an hour, we would have probably made contact, and at the posted speed limit, this would have been a very serious accident. So this is just kind of what it looks like sitting from the driver's seat and what this interface that our community is facing between drivers and micromobility looks like from that. One thing for certain, though, is when these accidents happen, the automobile will always win. As I mentioned, 70% of our calls are medical call types, injuries and medical calls. We don't transport all those people to the hospital, but we do transport 2/3 of them, 66%. We transport about another third. We're able to treat and release or refer to their doctor, refer to urgent care instead of an emergency room, so we take care of it another way. But 2/3 of them we transport. What's really more remarkable here to me is the fact that of those that we transport, we provide some type of advanced life support care in 93% of those cases, and that's an extremely high number. But what it tells me is that we have continued to highlight the focus on EMS and paramedic training, recruitment and retention of our paramedics, and the initiatives that have been supported by council are on target and they're on spot, because this is a need that our community have, is not just for ambulance care but for advanced life support, and that takes the skills and training of a paramedic. So I think we're on point with where we've been headed with that. However, getting paramedics is always a challenge. It is a very challenging program to transition from an EMT to a paramedic. And it takes a 1-year commitment, and it's a 1,600-hour training program. And they complete that training program while additionally working their regular shift. Our benchmark is been to have a minimum of 65 paramedics, and those are between two ranks. Our paramedic 2s are our field training paramedics that have promoted, and they are our field trainers, and then our firefighter paramedics. So those two are represented in the blue and the orange here. And so our goal is to have a minimum of 65 blue and gold there people. We've been steadily increasing on that, but it is a challenge because it takes so long to produce a paramedic. And the goal is actually not 65, because we're looking at when Station 7 comes on board, making sure that we have enough folks trained to staff that station. So our real target has been 76, and there's light at the end of the tunnel here. I think we're approaching that number. The number in gray, though, is not functioning paramedics. Those are in some form of training. They're either in school, they're waiting to take the National Registry, or they're going through field internship. So they're not fully functioning paramedics, and there will be some attrition in that group. But we currently have 8 members that are in paramedic school that started last month. I think our point here is that we have to continue to keep our foot on the gas here to maintain this as something that we continue to work on. And it is very hard to recruit paramedics from the outside. This current recruiting cycle that we're in, we had 419 applicants, and only 2 of those were paramedics, firefighter paramedics. Okay, so getting them from the outside is very challenging. We really have to have a strong internal support program to develop them from within. So response times. So our entire industry revolves around response times. We work on the model that every minute counts, every second counts. Our entire deployment model revolves around that in the fire service. So response times are very important to us. 2 to 3 minutes may not seem like very long, but it is when you're holding a child that's not breathing, or when your house is on fire and you're watching it go up in flames, or you have an injury and you're profusely bleeding. 2 or 3 minutes means the difference between a successful outcome and a less desirable outcome. Fortunately, we have industry standards on response time that we use. That's the NFPA 1710 standard. And that standard calls for 6 minutes and 24 seconds for fire response, total response time, and 6.5 minutes total response time for EMS calls. And that is not an average, that is a 90th percentile response time, and that is what we report for our accreditation standards. So again, it's not, averages are much easier, but this is what you're doing 9 out of 10 times, so it's a very high benchmark to hold. Last year for 2025, you'll see our kind of our 15-year trend there. We continue to look for every way we can with the resources that we have to whittle away at our response time and try and shave seconds off everywhere that we can to make, because seconds count. So we're continually looking at that. We've made some improvements on that. Last year, our fire response time at the 90th percentile was 6 minutes and 36 seconds and 6:44 for EMS. So we're about 12 to 14 seconds over the national standards, but those are very aggressive standards. And so we're proud of those, but we continue to work on them. What's very important about response times, though, is that total response time is comprised of 3 parts. The first part is the call processing time. And this is the time from the time somebody calls 911 for the phone to be picked up, for the dispatcher to answer it, ask some questions, determine what type of emergency you have, what the nature of the emergency, what type of resources are needed, and then to basically hit the button to punch that call out and dispatch it. That's the call processing time. For us, we rely on our College Station Dispatch Center, which is run by the police department. It's an accredited dispatch center. The standard for that dispatch call processing time is 64 seconds for fire calls and 90 seconds for EMS calls. And so our call processing center does a really good job in our dispatch center doing that. The second piece of time is the turnout time, and that is the amount of time that elapses from the time the lights come on in the fire station, the speakers open up, the dispatcher dispatches the call for our firefighters to get out to the fire truck, to gear up, to buckle up, and to start up and get rolling out the door. And the standard for that time is 60 seconds for EMS calls and 80 seconds for fire calls. And then the third piece is the travel time. So travel time, according to the standard, should be no more than 4 minutes, 240 seconds. And that is basically to say any emergency, driving in emergency traffic, every emergency should be within a 240-second travel time from the fire station location. So in order to do that, we rely on a couple things. First, strategic planning, making sure that our stations are located in ideal locations to try to as geographically disperse our fire stations as we can to get the most coverage. The second thing we rely on are different types of enhancements, such as Opticom system, our preemptive traffic control signals that allow us to get a green light when our emergency lights are on, and we can help clear that intersection and get through the intersection faster. That's an enhancement that helps our response. And then the third thing that we depend on for travel time is strictly just our street interconnectivity. There's no doubt that interconnectivity, that the travel time is directly related to the distance between point A and point B and how fast you can travel that distance. That is what travel time is going to equate to. So we rely on the street interconnectivity to make sure that we can get where we're going as quickly as we can when every second counts. So again, we've been working very hard to shave down our response time everywhere we can with the resources that we have. There certainly comes a point where you have to address response time in another way. One of those ways is to add a fire station, but that is the most costly way to address response time. The current fire station that we are building is a $13 million construction project. We'll put over $2 million of apparatus in it, and it's going to cost $2 to $2.5 million in annual O&M to operate it. And while that is a way to address response time, it is the most costly way to address response time if there are other options that are available. So another standard that we follow is NFPA 1730, and this is the fire prevention standard. And this standard recommends an inspection cycle for non-residential structures. And it basically divides those non-residential structures into four risk categories: critical infrastructure, high risk that are inspected annually, both critical and high risk are inspected annually, moderate risks that are inspected every other year, and low risks that are inspected every 3 years. The greatest, the way we can have a robust inspection system is the best way that we know of to reduce fire loss. And in fact, the U.S. Fire Administration has a statistic that 70% of businesses that have a significant fire will not reopen or will fail within 3 years. And we have examples of that right here in our community. When we look at the 2020 fire of the 13 and 0 barbecue in Northgate, that business did not reopen. And then unfortunately last year we had a significant one with the Harvey Washbanger fire. That business is not going to reopen. So we've seen examples of that. What you see on the graph is, on the left is the total number of occupancies in each risk category that we have in our community. And based on the recommended inspection cycle, the middle section describes how many of those structures that our goal is for inspection every year. And then on the right side, you see the number of inspections that we were able to accomplish in 2025. There's 2 areas that you'll see that we are off our goal, and that would be in our high risk, which is at 67%, and our low risk at 33%. Now, I will also say that even though we were off our goal on our high risk, that it was the first time, last year was the first time that we were able to get through all our restaurants. So restaurants are a high risk category based on occupancy and cooking environment. So that is in the high risk category. It's the first time that we inspected all restaurants. So even though we missed some, we did get through all the restaurants last year. I've kind of brought this to council's attention the last couple years, and I think a couple times I've told you we're watching this and that there may come a time where we need an additional inspector to be able to address this. We actually have made some internal changes without increasing our head count, so we had an attrition of one of our deputy fire marshals this past year. Our deputy fire marshals do some of the inspections, but they don't do all of them because they also do plan reviews, system inspections, permit inspections, arson investigations. So they have a lot of other things that they do as well. But we have a fire inspector that just focuses on this, and I really feel like we're at a point where we needed another full-time just fire inspector. We had an attrition of one of our deputy fire marshals, and rather than fill that with a classified position and that's also law enforcement, we replaced that with another fire inspector. So that person is in place now, going through training, and I am excited to see what another year will look like when we get 2 fire inspectors that are just dedicated to doing these inspections and how that can impact our community. So last year, code enforcement, through some reorganization in the city, code enforcement was given to the fire department. We are happy to have them. We've found a dedicated group of people. I have learned a lot about code enforcement because I do not have a background in that. But I'll tell you, there are 3 words when I was thinking about this, is that there's really 3 things that I would use to describe what I found about code enforcement. First, the first word would be proactive. Our code enforcement team works very hard proactively to get out. In fact, 85% of the code enforcement cases they had last year were done proactively. They did not wait for somebody to report a problem through SeeClickFix. They were out in their areas of responsibility identifying problems and concerns and trying to make our community better by enforcing the ordinances. So I was proud to see that they are a very proactive group. The second would be educational. They do not, their first approach on dealing with a problem is to educate the person to try to provide education and gain voluntary compliance. And so they work really hard at that. And then the third word would be enforcement. When voluntary compliance does not work through education, then they are willing to use enforcement mechanisms. So they're a great group of people that work really hard at that. When you see our top 5 code violations last year, the first one is obviously parking violations, followed by trash. So those are really a lot of what they did. We've made a couple changes that started in the fall. One of those changes is we put an after-hours code enforcement officer on Friday and Saturday. And the reason for that is we wanted to address some of the concerns that were happening after normal hours, particularly in the areas where we see parking violations, parties, noise complaints, things like that on Friday and Saturday night. So we've implemented an after-hours enforcement on Friday and Saturday and have had good success with that. And we'll continue that through the school year. One of the things you'll notice when you look at the graph on the left is kind of a big swoop in there. And of course, I ask questions learning, why is that? Why did we have such a change in code enforcement cases? And what I learned is the code enforcement group is very responsive to the focus and direction of council. And so their focus shifts based on council direction. So for example, in 2020 to 2021, the council direction was really focused on health and safety. Those code cases are a lot easier to identify. They're easier to gain compliance. They're easier to work and clear those cases. In 22 through 24, the focus of council shifted, and they shifted their focus to occupancy. Those over-occupancy cases were much more time-consuming. They took a lot of resources, a lot of time, and so we couldn't work as many cases. So that's why you'll see the number of cases drop significantly, is because of the type of cases that they're working. I think what we're seeing now is we're working council direction, which is a lot on parking, and that's really a big focus of them, is to try and focus on parking, trash, things like that they will continue. But we will continue to be a group that is can pivot based on council's direction.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
very briefly, please, is it a ordinance violation to park and block a sidewalk where you have a driveway traversing a sidewalk?
It is an ordinance violation. It's also a violation of the Texas State Transportation Code as well. So yes, it is a violation, and we've been working some of those cases aggressively.
Thank you very much.
We are a department that is very focused on community engagement, one of the top focuses of our department. We do that in a lot of different ways through involvement in the schools. Every year, we spend a lot of time in the elementary schools providing fire safety education. We participate in National Nights Out, Citizens Fire Academy, a lot of different community events. We offer CPR, first aid, AED training to the community. And you can see some of the numbers there. Last year, we had over 25,000 community interactions with the members of our community. We participated in over 200 events, trained almost 600 people in AED, CPR, and Stop the Bleed, and then installed smoke alarms in 38 different houses. A lot of times, those are the elderly that need assistance with that. So, again, I'm just proud to be a part of a department that not only is it a priority for me, but it really is a priority for our members. We make that very clear in the hiring process. If you don't like being involved with the community, this won't be a good place for you, because we are a department that is very engaged with the community. So moving on to the new shift schedule. So last year when I spoke with you, we had made the transition. We were only a couple months into it and didn't really have any data and results to share with you, other than we were seeing some positive trends. Well, this year we completed the first year. We transitioned to this shift model on November the 4th of 24. And just as a reminder, firefighters work a very non-traditional work schedule and work shift. A lot of that is tied to the labor standards, the federal labor standard laws, that firefighters can work beyond 40 hours without incurring overtime. So most fire department schedules are based on a 56-hour work week, as is ours. So there are different ways to accomplish that 56-hour work week. We were on one particular type, but our members brought forward one that was really growing in popularity. It was called the 4896 schedule. And so we did a survey in 2023, and we had 80% of our members that really wanted to try this new shift schedule out. We spent about a year in preparation, looking at the details, the statistics, doing a lot of research on it, and then made that transition in November of 24. So after a year on it, we saw some very positive results. First, we've seen a decrease in overtime. Now, I've been full transparency. The second 6 months of that year, we had begun our hiring for Station 7. So we were basically being overstaffed. But the first 6 months of that year, we were not, pretty much status quo for the number of people, and we still saw a decrease in overtime during that period. So we've obviously seen a very significant decrease the second 6 months because we had additional personnel. But the first 6 months definitely showed a positive trend. We don't have a lot of accidents in our department, but we wanted to make sure that that trend continued, that we don't have a lot of accidents. So that was one of the metrics we wanted to track. And in particular, we wanted to look at when we did have one, when was it occurring, making sure that we weren't seeing a pattern where we had a lot of accidents occurring on the second 24-hour shift. And we did not. Actually, overall, we've seen a decrease of almost 12% in accidents. No noticeable statistical difference between first day, second day, so that's not been a factor. One very positive thing that we anticipated but didn't realize it would be this significant was we've had a 48.5% increase in training. We log our training time, training hours, training activities, and we've seen a dramatic increase in that. A lot of that is tied to the ability to start a training package on the first day and continue on into the second day kind of uninterrupted. And so we've seen a dramatic increase in the training that our members have, which I would argue gives us a much better service that we're providing. We've also seen almost a 29% decrease in unscheduled absenteeism, or sick time. And at the end of our 1 year mark, we did another departmental survey, and whereas 80% wanted to try this, now 93% wanted to remain on this work schedule of our members. We also noted in the survey that a lot of very positive things. Members felt like they had an increased quality of life. They had increased work-life balance. They believed that their physical and mental health were improved, and they had improved family relations. So in general, our 1 year, I would say this has been a dramatic success for us. We've been able to do it. Now, I will say this is not a schedule that's for everybody. It's grown in popularity amongst departments exactly like ours, which are mid-sized departments. I would argue that this is a way that we can provide equivalent, if not better, and I would even say better because we have members that are even more trained. It's a no-cost alternative to being able to provide the same work schedule. And it has definitely improved job satisfaction, and that's seen through our recruiting and retention. I would say last year, I believe our department had, if not the lowest, one of the lowest turnover rates of all the city departments. And in our current hiring process, we had 419 applicants. That is the highest, certainly we've had since I've been here, and I believe maybe one of the highest the department's ever had. So I believe a lot of that is tied to the popularity of this shift schedule. So like I said, in general, this has been a very successful transition for us. As I mentioned, training, we're doing a lot more training, and some of that is tied to the number of people that we have. We have hired 47 new members over the last 3 years. And we have a very structured phased training program that takes 2 years to complete. So we have a lot of members that are in some portion of that phased training program. We also completed all our training last year in the 16-hour active attack and integrated response program. The department was able to use a $224,000 AFG grant, a federal grant to conduct that, as well as a $97,000 state Homeland Security grant to conduct that training in cooperation with our police department partners. So we feel like we're in a good position to be able to hopefully not have to deliver that service, but if we do, we're trained to do it. We followed that up with a large mass casualty incident full-scale exercise. We used the Macy's building for that and incorporated some of the training that had been incorporated into the AIR program and did that. We've had a lot of advanced EMS training this past year. Some of that has included advanced airways and even the surgical cricothyrotomy training. And so we've done a lot of EMS training and hands-on training. But this year, 2026, is going to be the year of the high-rise for us. We kicked off last month a real emphasis for this year on high-rise training. We are a city that now has a high-rise district. Northgate is our high-rise district. We currently have 6 high-rises that exist, residential high-rises. We got 5 more that are under construction, 2 in the planning phase. We currently have just under 7,000 beds in Northgate, but within the next couple years, by the fall of 27, that number is anticipated to be over 14,000 beds in residential high-rises. So as that, we want to make sure that as a department, we are trained. Certainly, emergencies that occur in high-rises are very different in strategy and tactics. We depend a lot on the building systems, and we have to know how those systems operate and how to use those systems to our benefit. So we have really kicked off a very intensive training program over this year to be prepared for that as those numbers increase. Also, one of the things, this is where we see micromobility and high-rises interface across the country. One of the trends that has been noticed is people on scooters in high-rises. They take their scooters up to their residential unit. They leave it by the front door where they plug it in, and then the lithium battery has a thermal overrun and catches fire, and now their exit's blocked. So that's something that's being noted across the country related to micromobility and high-rises. So we just want to make sure that we are in position to be able to deal with high-rise emergencies, and I am confident that by the end of this year that we will hopefully not be experienced high-rise firefighters, but we'll be well-trained. Fleet has obviously been an issue in our region, has got a lot of attention, and I just wanted to give you an update on where we are. We are challenged with some of the challenges that the industry have. One is those production times. So our engine production time right now, from the time we place the order until we take delivery, is 52 months. Ladder trucks are 48 months, and our ambulances are about 16 to 18 months, basically. So we've seen these long lead times. They increased during COVID, and they just never have returned back to normal. So this is just our new norm. I really want to thank the reason that I think our fleet is in very good shape is simply the fact that we've had a lot of support from fiscal services. You're laughing, I almost said that, but I didn't. Fiscal services, fleet, our city manager, and council have really supported us on being able to place those orders far in advance and work with the new norm of the response time, the production times. What that means for you, though, is you're going to see those encumbered funds. We encumbered the funds when we placed the order. We don't write the check until the fire truck is delivered, but those encumbered funds are going to roll forward for several years in budget amendments because we're encumbering them several years in advance to get on the production schedule. It's one thing for us to purchase apparatus, and we've done a good job with that. We received one engine in April of '24. We received 2 in July of last year. We have 3 more that are on order right now. One is for Station 7 that'll be here in July. 2 more that will arrive in the spring of '29. And then that still leaves us 3 engines in reserve. We have 1 ladder truck that's been on order now, and it will be delivered in October of '28. And then our ambulances are in good shape. We've received 4 in 2024. We have 2 more on order that'll be here in February of '27, and that gives us the additional 3 reserves. In addition to our ambulances, we've replaced all our frontline fleet with 4-wheel drives. That was a result of Winter Storm Uri. We learned we really needed that 4-wheel drive to be able to get around on icy conditions and continue to deliver service. So that was one of the outcomes of that, and we've made that transition now. Like I said, it's one thing for us to be able to purchase vehicles, and I appreciate the support we've had in getting those orders early. It is another thing to maintain them. We really depend heavily on our fleet department, and they do an outstanding job in maintaining our fleet with the conditions they're in. We just want to pledge our support for the public safety, Public Works facility, because we see that it's very difficult for them to work on our fleet in the shop they're in. For example, our ladder trucks, in order to work on the engine of a ladder truck, we have to put the ladder up in order to have room to roll the cab forward, and they don't have room inside to do that. So whenever they work on our ladder trucks, they're doing it outside, whether it's the blazing sun outside in the summer or whether it's in the rain. I've seen them out there working on our ladder trucks in less than desirable conditions. So we definitely see the need for that because we depend on them heavily to keep our rolling stock rolling up and down the road. And finally, Station 7 is well underway. We are, actually we're done with design and development. I thought I took that off. But it is, we broke ground in April. The engine, as I mentioned, is going to be delivered in July. We began staffing for that station last spring and hired the first round of 12. That was through being awarded a SAFER grant. We were very fortunate to get 2 SAFER grants consecutively, which is really kind of unheard of. So the first one we used to hire the first 12. We have another SAFER grant award, and we are currently in the middle of that hiring process, and those folks are slated to start on March the 30th. In addition, as I mentioned, we've been trying to get our paramedic numbers up so that we're ready. We're really trying to bring several things together at the same time in the fall of this year. The station construction, the staffing, the apparatus, the training. We're trying to merge all those things so that everything is ready. Obviously, we don't want a fire station that's done with no apparatus to put in it or no people trained to put in it. So we're trying to bring all these things together, and we are nearing that road mark when they're all merging together at the same time. So it's good to see. But we anticipate that we'll have our grand opening sometime in the fall of '26. And that concludes my presentation, so I'm available for any questions.
I'm sure there are several. Chief, thank you very much for a very thorough overview. And I'll just start on place 1 down here with Councilmember Smith, and we'll move this way to see if there's any questions or thoughts you might want to ask or add.
Thank you for the very thorough presentation, Chief. Man, I'm proud of our fire department. It's one of the highest ranked things in our citizen surveys. And it's just, you set a high bar and everybody else works to stay up with you.
Thank you. That has very little to do with me. That has a lot to do with the men and women that we have in the field, and they are the ones delivering the service and doing a tremendous job.
Mr. Wright?
That was such an in-depth presentation. I have no questions, so thank you very much.
Chief, outstanding job. Thank you. My colleagues have said, wonderful department, great leadership. I think you have a wonderful team in place. Super proud of you. Keep us apprised of what you need. We want to be ahead of the curve whenever you need, employees or trucks or anything. So great job.
Thank you.
Ms. McElhaney?
I can honestly say I've not ever heard a single concern or complaint about our fire station. Thank you for making it very easy for us to put our shoulders back and hold our heads high when we're talking about our fire department. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Mr. Yancey?
Great job, Chief and team. Thank you for all you do.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yeah, nothing really new, Chief, on the praises, because you guys do a great job. It was an amazing presentation. You included everything that you needed to, and it was very informative. I would ask one question, since you all are dealing with it, and since we've been hearing some about it, and it goes to the auto ped piece that you talked about, and you're seeing a lot more of this, and the same thing's happening on campus. And I wondered if you all had thought of any solutions or anything that you think might be helpful, because it is definitely a ratcheting up problem we've got.
Yeah, I don't like to bring a problem without having a solution, but quite honestly, I think the solution to this is greater than the fire department for sure.
Well, yeah, I agree.
And I would, my personal opinion is I believe the solution is going to come from one or a combination of kind of 4 general areas. The first would be policy considerations. So there may be some policy changes that can be considered. Those may be day-night type policies where scooters are not allowed in the nighttime versus day. We can't use our cell phones when we're driving, so we probably shouldn't have earphones in when we're on a scooter so we can hear. That would be a policy change. Helmets, some areas are using helmets. Some areas I've heard are restricting to the area of campus only, not around campus. So those are just some different things I've heard from around the country, but those are really policy decisions. The second kind of thing would be safety enhancements. So what can be done as far as concerning bike lanes? We see the intersections in some of the lanes are where these are happening. I don't know what kind of safety enhancements that might be considered. That's not my area of expertise, but certainly we know where they're happening, and we could maybe look at those. The third would be enforcement. Once we have rules in place, may potentially greater enforcement of those rules. And then the last one, maybe a technology type change, maybe something we don't even have. For example, we have now the HOS alerting system so that when our emergency lights are activated, anybody, or most different vehicles that have a navigation system, it will say, emergency vehicle approaching, whatever it's tied to, a lot of navigation systems. There may be some type of future technology that does the same thing for micromobility, I don't know, but it may be a technology thing. But we definitely have this interface that is growing between our micromobility and our motor vehicles, and so probably my thought is the answer is going to come from those 4 general categories or some combination thereof.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think one of the things that they're talking about at the university is trying to incorporate into new student conferences more education about it, because in a lot of cases I think students don't really understand what they're getting into sometimes when they buy those devices. Are at all sorts of different levels and different speeds and different powers. Parents don't always understand it, and just how they're using them, because if you spend any time on campus, and it happens other places around the community, it's horrifying actually, to see the behavior that some people engage in on these vehicles and the speeds that they're going and how quickly, how close they're coming to pedestrians and cars and everything. So I really appreciate you pointing that out. And thanks again.
And we've also heard, anecdotally, some folks says we've made wider sidewalks that are being used for micromobility, and they don't really, they see that in their mind as a road, their road.
Right. Here we
and
go.
then when they get to the street crossing, they continue right on through without thinking they've got to stop like a normal pedestrian. So that's where we see a lot of those as well. So
Agreed. Well, thanks again for your presentation.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Let me just add my thanks to you and all the assistant chiefs you have that lead a great organization. The micromobility, I assume, is related to electric scooters and electric bicycles, which go a lot faster than they did when I used to have to pedal one with the foot.
yeah, skateboards are a lot slower for sure.
And so I think speed of those, and I think that's controlled somewhat on campus. If you're gonna, you have to license them, and you can't license anything with a greater horsepower than a certain amount. So they do try to regulate it there. But if you drive around the community, you see some. As I drive up Texas Avenue, the fellow on the scooter or the electric bike riding on the sidewalk makes faster time sometimes than I do. Maybe that's one reason for doing it. The only other comment I had, and it's really just a general comment, it seems EMS is 2/3 of your calls. But every place I see, we're talking about a fire department. I did see on the ambulances it says fire/EMS. But on the fire stations, and your department's name is the College Station Fire Department.
Yes, sir.
Is there any trend in the profession or in the field to refer to these departments or these structures as fire/EMS station number 5?
Yeah, 20 years ago, I think there was kind of a push for that, and it just kind of fell off because the wording just got long. There was one push to try and transition just to the word rescue, meaning anything. Different things have been tried. I think the biggest point to make, though, is the best departments, again, in my opinion, is those departments that deliver both services.
Right.
Because, the best value you can get out of an individual, which is our greatest cost of our people, is making those people as functional and as multi-versatile as we possibly can. So having them both trained as firefighters and paramedics that can deliver both services is the best model system.
Yeah, and I can see most people understand that EMS is rolled into fire here. I was talking to our scouts here earlier, and their questions are all about communication. Just think, though, somehow or another, people don't. Maybe it's not as best communicated, but I understand the word gets too long, and so we just live with what we have, and everybody understands it. Maybe and that's the best way it goes. Anyway, thank you very much for the presentation. It's a really good update. That micromobility thing was a real eye-opener, something that we all need to be working on up here as well. And also applaud your efforts, your leadership, and others, Tommy, as well, in rolling the code enforcement in under your direction. It's certainly a significant transition. I know in my communications with you or with Tommy or about code enforcement, you are always right there at the ready. And so you spent time on it this year to bring yourself up to speed, as you said. But I really think it's a mark of good management as well, that you could fold that in. I know the city manager and you have had a lot of discussion about how to get this done, the code enforcement staff as well. I think it's been a pretty good move, so
Well,
thank you.
they're a great group of people, work really hard, and so they were easy to take in.
Very good. Well, somehow or another, code enforcement never drops off the end of our agendas. Sometime during the year, we'll come back to issues of code enforcement, and we'll give some more guidance and direction. And as you said, that's one of the reasons that chart looks a little different there, is the direction you get from council. So we take that seriously, and we need to understand the time commitment with respect to different kinds of issues that need to be addressed in code enforcement. And thank you for bringing that to us. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And I'll join in on that. Well,
I'm just glad it's Brower following that, because he's like the only guy that, could follow up the fire department presentation.
would you like to add any more thought to that? Okay. Because I'm going to move on to the regular agenda, which is item 9.1, and there's only one item on the regular agenda. This is a presentation, discussion, possible action regarding a resolution of support of a proposal received in response to RFI 26032 for the development of affordable housing in College Station through the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs 2026 Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Allocation Process. David Brower will make a presentation, and while it's not a public hearing, I do have one person signed up to speak. So after the council asks questions before we vote, I will ask that person to come forward. Mr. Brower.
Great. Thank you. Good
Welcome.
evening, Mayor and Council. David Brower, Planning and Development Services. And tonight for your consideration, we're bringing a resolution of support for Knoxwood Crossing, a low-income housing tax credit development. I'm going to give a very brief presentation and give some background on the housing tax credit process. And then I'll introduce the developer, who also has a presentation. And then we're happy to answer any questions.
Are you going to make another presentation, or is this just the background?
Yes, sir. And this is, I'm going to give background,
Okay,
and
go
then
ahead, go right ahead, please.
and then the developer also has a presentation
Okay,
to talk about their
that'll-
development.
That'll be fine.
And so the process that we went through, we released an RFI 2 months ago seeking proposals for low-income housing tax credit development. The way that the tax credit process works, municipalities' support helps score points. And I'll talk a little bit more about how it's a highly competitive process, and it's critical that development score points. And so whenever we are competitive, we'll usually release that request for interest and get proposals and then bring them to you for consideration to see which ones you would like to support, if any. And so one response was received from Woda Cooper Companies. They're proposing a 60-unit affordable rental development at 2735 South Harvey Mitchell Parkway. And so briefly to go through the housing tax credit process, pre-applications were due, and coming up at the end of February, the full applications are due, and then in April, their market analysis is due. And so, like I mentioned, it's a competitive process. The state is split up in regions, and we compete with Killeen and Waco. So in June, anybody not with the developer can bring up an administrative deficiency between that time, but then in June, scoring notices are issued. Public comments go to TDHCA's Board of Directors, and then in July, final awards will be made. And so the basis of how tax credit works is if a developer is awarded tax credits, they take those credits and sell them to companies, to investors, and that raises a majority of the capital needed then to build the property for the development. So if this development was successful, They would get awarded in July. They would sell those credits and raise the capital needed. Construction would start in January of '27, and then they would need to be in service, those 60 units, by December of 2028. And so the units and being in service, they would then have a 30-year affordability period attached to them, and they'd be monitored by the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. And so tonight, all that's before you is a resolution of support for if you as a council want to support this development. So this is a site map of where the development is located. They're on Harvey Mitchell Parkway. And with that, I'll turn over the presentation to the developer, and then when they're done, we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Please come forward, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Harrison LaHaye, and I work for Wodo Cooper Companies. And I'm here to present Knoxwood Crossing, which is our proposed development. Starting off with just a little bit of background about Wodo Cooper Companies, we were founded in 1990, so we just celebrated our 35th year in business. We are a fully vertically integrated, employee-owned, affordable housing developer, builder, and property management company. A couple of our things that we like to point out is we've had over 120 green certifications, along with 10 platinum certifications. And something we really like to emphasize is that we are not a merchant developer, meaning we come in, build, develop, and then sell the property. We instead like to hold our properties in perpetuity. So when we come into a community and we build, we manage the property ourselves, and we do not sell it. So that's something we always like to make sure that we emphasize, that we're going to be here for the long haul. We're going to be your neighbor as long as we own the property, and we never plan to sell it. A couple of award-winning projects just to point out is one, the Doris in Wheeling, West Virginia. It's the 2024 Multifamily Project of the Year for the Home Builders Association of West Virginia. And then Osborne Commons in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. It won the Outstanding Affordable Project of the Year for the USGBC LEED Awards in 2022. Jumping into the development team, Wodo Cooper Development, Wodo Construction, and Wodo Management and Real Estate LLC are all under the umbrella of Wodo Cooper Companies, so that is our fully vertically integrated company. We have experience, with about 400 properties across the United States, and we operate in 18 states. We have made some changes to the design team since this presentation was submitted. So we will now be working with Kearney Engineering, who is extremely well-versed with affordable housing in the state of Texas, and Cadis Design Group, who is an experienced architect with affordable housing. And then we work with Energy Bees. They're an energy consultant, and they do our energy consumption modeling. Jumping into just the general need for workforce housing in College Station, something that jumped out immediately upon reviewing the College Station housing study is that 58% of renters in College Station are cost burdened. That means they are spending over 30% of their monthly income on either their mortgage or their rental payment. Furthermore, 35% of College Station renters are severely cost burdened, meaning they're spending over 50% of their monthly income on housing. That's extremely high compared to the national average, what you typically see. So, that just emphasizes the need for affordable housing in College Station. Furthermore, since 2020, College Station has added an estimated 10,000 in population, going from 120,000 to about 130,000. And it looks like growth is going to continue here. And, with increase in population, that's obviously going to put further pressure on housing prices and housing availability. So affordable housing is definitely something that we believe College Station needs, and is part of the reason why we're coming here. Another thing to point out here is that since 2015, the average College Station home price has increased by 73%, while median family income has only increased by 25%. I'll just breeze through this quickly. It's about 3.5 acres located at 2735 South Harvey Mitchell Parkway. And Mr. Brower already showed this, so we can jump ahead here. Here's sort of a preliminary site plan of what we were looking to do. It would be a 4-story elevator building consisting of 60 units with 7 units for people earning up to 30% of area median income, and then 9 units for people earning up to 50% area median income, and 44 units for people earning up to 60% of area median income. A couple of things to point out here is that the exterior would consist of a brick veneer and cement fiber siding. And then it'll be designed to crime prevention through environmental design standards, which includes a well-lit site along with landscaping that does not create dead space, just really trying to light up the site and create a very safe environment for our tenants. Jumping ahead here, just a couple of things about the community amenities. We'll have a leasing center, a coffee bar, 24-hour fitness center, a community kitchen for potlucks, a community room with audiovisual equipment, and a laundry care center in the clubhouse. We will also have 24/7 recorded security cameras sprinkled throughout the exterior of the site and in the hallways and stairwells of the project, along with any common space. And on the exterior, we'll have barbecue and picnic seating throughout the site, and we'll also have bicycle racks for tenants with bicycles. Inside the units, appliances will include microwaves, dishwashers, a cooking range with ovens, and garbage disposals, energy-rated appliances and windows, high-efficiency lighting and fixtures, ceiling fans in the living room and bedrooms, eco-friendly construction materials, faux hardwood-style flooring, a spacious kitchen, washer and dryer hookups, and then EPA water-sense toilets, shower heads, and faucets in all bathrooms. As far as lifestyle services go, we'll be looking to partner with, as we get closer to placing the project in service, we'll be looking to partner with local community organizations. A couple that I'll point out is in our first project in Texas, out in Amarillo, we're partnering with the Boys and Girls Club out there, and they're going to provide after-school services at the property for the kids who will live at the property. That'll be about 15 hours a week. Another group that we've partnered with throughout the past is Huntington Bank in Michigan. They've provided home ownership and financial literacy classes on site. And then I can take any questions you might have.
Okay, questions can go either to the presenter or to Mr. Brower. Who has a question first? Mr. Yancey, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. One brief question. Really good presentation here. Sounds like you guys are doing the Lord's work. Good company. How do you keep, like in our community, we've got tens of thousands of students, right, who and don't get me wrong, I don't want to discriminate against students. I'm just trying to understand how this structure is not going to get occupied by students immediately who will qualify based on the income requirements.
Sure. So I have Robbie Meyer here, who is our tax credit consultant, and she may step in here if I say something wrong, but under the, this is a Section 42 of the IRS program, and per IRS guidance, we actually cannot rent to full-time students. They have to either be a part-time student with a job, but you won't get full-time students living in there, who are, have no income or very little income, with their parents paying the rent, for example. That is not going to be allowed per the federal guidance.
Thank you for the clarification.
Ms. Schaefer, you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I think it's a very positive move for the community, and I really appreciate the presentation you gave about your company and the sorts of things that you all are doing. The vertical integration, the fact that you stay with us, all those seem like very positive things, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
McElhaney.
So I'm a little bit confused. I never thought I would hear LEED certified and affordable in the same sentence. Can you touch on that? Were the projects that you're getting the LEED certification on affordable housing projects?
Yeah, that's correct. In a lot of states, Texas is not one of them, but in a lot of states, they actually require you to pursue a LEED certification or some other green rating. For example, in Minnesota, we often pursue Zero Energy Ready version 2. as a green certification. So it just depends on the state. In Texas, it's not required, but in many states it is.
Interesting. So you will not be pursuing that for this project?
We may, it's not been finalized, but our standard building type, like with our franchise specs, gets us to, a LEED level building. However, the question is, do you want to pay the extra money for the certification if you're already building to that standard? We find that usually is not worth it for us to do if we don't have to do it. But that's our baseline build at this point.
Hence my confusion. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. White?
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Very supportive.
Mr. Wright? Mr. Smith, any?
Thanks.
Okay, I've got a question or two for Mr. Brower, if I could. And I don't think this is anything new. We have been successful, or the developer has been successful, about 5 years ago, to earn enough points for the scoring.
That's correct.
And
Yes, sir.
of course, the applicant believes they can make a proposal that will earn them the points in the scoring process, but it's not guaranteed, correct?
That's correct. So the last was the Huntington in 2018. And I believe whenever we've had developers come to this stage, they're pretty sure that they're going to get the points necessary. And I believe you're correct that it's not a guarantee, but there's enough involved in the development process that to come this far, they've kind of scored and know.
I'm really pleased that they have a product and a history, and the presentation is great. But I want to ask you more specifically, how do we deal with them, assuming they qualify and they get the tax credits, with regard to our building codes and our setbacks and all of that in the city? I think this land is already zoned for apartment complexes, so I don't think that's a problem. But landscaping, lighting, all of those, they have to build within our standards, correct?
Absolutely, they do. And they've come and done a pre-application conference with the Planning and Development Services Department.
Right, so
And
they
it-
factored all that in. and-
Adjusted
and
based
so
on that, but that's correct. They'll have to meet every standard any other developer will.
Great, well, I was just curious about how that worked. So, I don't have any questions either. Chair will entertain a motion. Well, wait a minute, I can't do that. I've got a person who wants to speak. So, thank you. If there are no other questions for the applicant or for Mr. Brower, I'll invite Mr. Valen Cepak forward. He's signed up to speak on this item. And is a member of the Housing Action Plan Steering Committee.
Yeah, and that's it. I just wanted to deliver, Valen Cepak, 301 Manila. We just wanted to talk about how great we saw this as. Obviously, it's not ownership, kind of like we've talked about in the past, but if people can get into this type of complex and paying less for rent, then they can be putting money away to start looking at other things, maybe apply for the down assistance payment program. The community, when he presented to us, we were all super excited. We think the land's phenomenal, so I just wanted you to hear from another party that we're super encouraged and super excited about this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cepak. Appreciate your presentation and thoughts. Now, I think I can move to the will of the council. We have a presentation before us. It's not a public hearing as such, but we've heard one member council, so Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Where did I hear that from?
Second.
Mr. Schaefer? Who did I hear a second
I
from?
second.
Second from Mr. White, okay. So we have a motion on the floor to move approval for this resolution of support for the proposal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. David and representatives of the developer were fully supportive, so hopefully whatever you need in the way of the resolution you can submit with the package. We'll make sure that gets returned around in 24 hours. Super, thank you very much. I do want to make an apology before I go to the next item. When I reported back from the executive session, I didn't indicate that we are recessed from executive session. And as soon as we've completed the rest of the items on the agenda before adjournment, we will return to executive session, and then we'll come back and close the whole thing out. So, That completes the regular agenda. We have item 10, which is items of community interest and council calendar. Does anybody have items of community interest? We'll come to that in a minute. Any other, no, nobody wants to speak on item 10. Item 11, council reports on committees, boards, and commissions. I would like to just make one report. Are there any committees, commissions reports that want to be made, need to be made?
Legislative engagement.
I just want to report that the Legislative Engagement Committee is starting the process of coming up with our legislative platform. So we'll be bringing that to council probably in the next 2 to 3 months. So we're going to actively put that together for your review and hopefully get adopted by this summer.
We also met with Senator Schwartner, and he had asked us what our 3 main priorities were. And did you want to touch base on those, David?
So Senator Schwartner came and visited with the committee. We had a very good dialogue. He also came to the Chamber of Commerce legislative committees and updated the chamber on that. I think probably one of the things that we've reached out to Senator Schwartner on for his support is the bridge, or the underneath bridge over at on Texas Avenue, University Avenue, and so we're gonna be working with him trying to get some funds in order to move that project forward. You want to add anything, Melissa, to that?
And he also is kind of following up and on the public utility matter that we have pending. And what was the third item that we had, William? I got a little sidetracked, but there were 3 though. He's very helpful, very positive.
I did sit in the meeting, and he is very definitely paying attention to how he can assist the city of College Station and the legislature next year. So that was really positive. Oh, the water. Yeah. Oh, he has some he said that in several different public engagements I've heard. He has a very distinct ideas about groundwater conservation district design and areas. So we'll see how that develops, but certainly sounds like an area he's going to be very active in. Any other commissions, committees? Okay, let me just bring you up to date on the MPO. MPO Policy Board met this on February 4th. A couple of things. One is really an interesting update. The board adopted a policy for how and when a major thoroughfare concept for the BCS, Metropolitan Planning Organization, would be updated. It's been updated in the past, but refining and establishing a policy statement was part of our discussion, and refining it so that the public understands more clearly what the steps are and how the MPO will address the thoroughfare plan, because that's been a topic of some discussion, particularly in the county with the East Loop. But it is intended to start in 2027 with the idea that the 2 major cities in the county, are already in the process of looking at their thoroughfare plans. So that the cities will update theirs, and that'll be merged into the county major thoroughfare concept at the time that that's looked at in public engagement process, and all of that will include the 2 cities, which the 2 cities will already have done their process. So we've got some issues in the city of College Station that will be addressed, and determining how that comes out, that'll be then forwarded by staff and others to that process. The other thing that I thought was interesting was the adopting safety targets for the MPO. And basically what we did was we've adopted the state safety targets. We've done that for years, because the process of figuring out how to adjust them to the local areas is a very complex and not very rewarding effort. But what was interesting was that the BCS, Metropolitan Planning Organization territory, which is just our county, really is lagging behind in terms of accidents and that sort of thing, the rest of the state, in terms of bringing the numbers down. Our numbers per 100,000 people or 100,000 people is going up a little bit. And that's not a good sign. And so there is some interesting data behind that you might want to look into. That's all I got to report on the MPO. The BTD board and the Greater Brazos Partnership Board will be meeting soon. And I'll bring you back information on those two at a later meeting. Nothing else? Okay, in that case, we move on to item 12, I'm sorry. Future agenda items. Yes, Ms. McElhaney?
I was very intrigued by what Chief was saying about how we could influence the craziness of our different multimodal transportation units by possibly requiring some policy changes with regards to headphones, night riding, helmets. As someone who repeatedly brings this up in our transportation group, it's the Wild West out there, and I think it may be time for us to workshop making some of those policy moves.
You're on the Transportation Committee, right?
Yes,
With
sir.
Mark? Yeah, so Mark, yeah. All right, sounds like there's a general consensus up here of council members who would like to see, I assume you're asking for a workshop item?
Is that probably the best way to address it?
Led by the appropriate staff?
Yes, sir.
Bring us a report back on options.
Yes, sir.
Is that clear enough direction for city staff? Okay. Very good. We'll add that to the list. Anything else? If not, where am I here? All right, we're going to not adjourn. We're going to recess this meeting, go back into executive session in the executive meeting room and complete our agenda there. And we'll be back out here afterwards.